Hey guys, it's Killen here, and I wanted to talk about school and whether or not it's necessary for a musician to go to school in order to have a successful career. I feel like I'm at a pretty good point in my life to give advice on this topic because I'm not too far removed from school. It's been about 5 years now, so I have some experience in the real world, but I'm not too far removed from the academic experience. Okay, so the question is school worth it? I could sum this video up in 2 words, and that is, it depends. Well, I can't give you a definitive answer. I could give you my own experience, which includes the experience of a bunch of other musicians like my peers and all that. Some of which have a music degree and some of which don't. I myself have a bachelor's degree from McGill University in jazz performance on drums. And I finished the program, and I'm glad that I did. For me, there was a clear path from being completely obsessed with drums, jazz drums in general, to eventually opening up and getting more into music production and all that. I became a touring and session drummer very young while I was still in school, making connections there. I'm still a remote session drummer. Check me out on soundbetter.com. So one thing about school, to be in an environment where you're 100% focused on one thing and you're surrounded by people that are striving for the same thing, that's something you can't really find in the real world. You're obviously going to run into people that are more experienced than you, and you're being taught by people that have a lot more experience than you as well. On the other hand, I've seen a bunch of people get scared away from music school because they thought it was one thing, but it ended up being something that they didn't think it was. Being a creative musician is definitely not the most secure career path for anyone to choose. It's very difficult to make a living off of music. Some people kind of just resort to teaching. So anyway, that was my experience with school. Now on to my experience in the real world and with music production. I mean, I won't get too much into the touring thing because this is more of a music production channel. I'm super humbled to have played with some great musicians to some giant audiences, and that's definitely a career path that I could have continued on. My point in all of this is that my education really served my career choice as a session or touring drummer. And that's all great, but for me, I discovered that none of that compares to sitting at home, creating something from scratch. I wake up every day looking forward to creating something new or learning something new, even if it's not good. So even though I haven't taken one class in music production, I'm currently making a career out of it, and I'm pretty much in it for the long haul at this point. This is the point that sort of forces me to believe that you don't need to go to school to excel in a career in music, especially when there's so much free information at your fingertips. There's some producers out there that are in their teens and they're just killing it. Okay, so there's one other thing, and this is probably the biggest thing.
Money.
So I'm sure that some of you watching this video are planning to go to school in the United States. I'm super fortunate to live in a city where my education is extremely cheap. It's basically a fraction of what a student going to an American university pays. Unless you have help from your parents, or maybe you're getting like an insane scholarship or something, I highly recommend that you do not go to school in the United States if you're paying for everything yourself. I can't even fathom what that would be like to be like 200 grand or something in debt as an artist, especially when you're first getting started. Not only for your musical career, but also for like your general sanity.
Are you connecting?
Stress and depression are real things, and yeah, I can't even imagine what that's like. I just can't even imagine. What's kind of tricky too is that if you do find an education that's cheaper, or if you're getting help from your parents, but you still have to work, that's all fine, but it's just kind of hard to juggle work, schoolwork, which is not always creative, and then actual creative time. I think if you focus on all 3 of those things at once, it's kind of hard not to spread yourself thin, or you could just be like me and not have a social life for your whole university career. Okay, so the last point I'll bring up is, it's kind of a cheesy one, it's inspiration. So I might sound like a hippie saying this, but I really believe that inspiration is probably the most important tool as a creative musician. If you wake up excited and looking forward to create music every day, then that's where it's at. I think that inspiration is more valuable than going to university and potentially having people cram things down your throat, things that might not even be that useful for your actual career. All in all, in my experience, I've learned the most important things outside of school as a musician. Whether it was constantly going to jam sessions and meeting new people as a touring and session drummer, or just presenting my music to the world as a producer, whether it be through SoundCloud or through commercial means or even on Spotify. Thanks for listening, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.
Are you connecting? Picasso is
Dead.